because I don't have anything that I would see that you're recording.
Okay.
You might, I don't.
First of all, how are you feeling? How are your ribs?
I think they're getting along well. I just don't feel like I want to do 10th X-ray. I think 9 is enough for now.
Why did you have 9 X-rays?
First one was in Georgia, in the hospital when after my fall. Second was at the trauma center in Moscow.
Hmm?
Uh, Third was in Moscow hospital because trauma center they were so scared of my blood in my lung that they
Oh,
called an ambulance and they sent me to the hospital
oh
and they
no.
wanted to puncture my lung,
Ah,
which
but they
means I had
didn't.
no, they didn't. Doctor said that I had only 100 milligrams of blood and I was taking medications for 2 weeks and antibiotics for 2 weeks and it cleared. In 4 weeks the lung cleared.
Okay, so you're breathing all right now?
Yes, yes. Then I came back. Then I went to Malta for 2 weeks. Then I came back. I had more X-rays. Then I came home, and I had four more X-rays. And doctor told me that four ribs are still not connected. They're like that.
Ah,
And now I'm waiting for a couple of months, and then I'll try. I will try again.
okay. Are you not supposed to be very active?
Doctor told me that I can do anything I want. If I get pain, stop it, and this is what I'm doing.
Okay.
If it gets very painful, I try to stop it.
I guess
But,
that's good advice for anything.
yes, but on Sunday I spent 6 hours raking leaves
Oh,
outside.
wow. But it didn't hurt?
It did, but I had to do it.
I see your family, you're following a long family tradition of not really listening to the doctor.
Yeah. Oh, this
Yeah.
is the main tradition. Yeah, for the family. For me, it
Well,
all for me it always
how
works.
it works well.
Yep. hmm I don't
That's
trust
great.
doctors. I trust surgeons only if they do a good job.
Uh, but I guess you don't know till afterwards if they've done a good job or
Yeah,
not.
yeah. And afterwards, if they did a good job, then I trust them and I will go to them again.
Very nice. So, how are your boys? How are Igor and Alex?
Uh, no, it's very hard to say about Alex because you probably know that I have a hard time with Liz.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah, which means I'm not allowed to visit. I'm not allowed to see the kids.
Oh,
That's why Alex writes to me and says that everything is okay.
okay.
If
Does he send pictures?
once in a while, yes, if I remind him several times, he does.
Okay.
Yeah, once in a while, I remind him and he sends some pictures. Yes, and uh, Igor is also not very good because he's not responsive. But
Uh,
once in a while, he does respond. Like
okay.
after my fall, he didn't write to me for like I think about 6 weeks, and I was getting like hysterical.
Oh.
Finally, finally, and he just wrote like simple. I'm sorry we didn't stay in touch. Very simple. That's it.
Mm-mm.
No
Well,
apology, nothing.
yeah. And
But
what is your baby's name?
baby's name is Zora.
Zora. That's beautiful. So, how is little Zora?
Yes, and once in a while, like once in 3 weeks, once a month, we go on video chat on Google. And last night we did go on the chat, and usually it's like in the evening. They show me how she eats dinner,
Uh-huh.
and then they give her a bath,
Uh-huh.
and then she plays a little bit, and then they take her to bed.
I see.
And this how
Sounds
it.
like
Yeah.
sounds like she's doing everything a baby is supposed to do.
Yes, she's doing fine, and she's very funny to watch her eating. But she's getting better. Initially, when she ate, she would like take and just everything was going everywhere. But
Yes.
now she puts most of the things she puts in her mouth.
Oh, good aim.
Yeah, it's good. And like a week ago, Donya sent me a video of Zora eating her birthday cake,
Oh, how did that go? Did she get
and
most of that in her mouth?
this was very very funny because it was like a muffin. Top of the cake had chocolate, and she took this chocolate and she was all in chocolate.
Yes.
And then she smashed that cake in all pieces and it was all around her.
Hmm.
It was very funny. Yeah.
Babies are very untidy.
Yeah. That's why when she has dinner, usually she is naked and they just put an apron and she eat with an apron and then they
Uh-huh.
take off this apron and they take you into bath.
Good. You can sort of hose her down afterwards.
Yep.
Yes. When Rachel was little, we still had our dog Maggie, and that was great because all the food would go on the floor and Maggie would eat it all up.
Clean up, yeah. I remember Maggie. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, she was a nice dog.
she was very nice. She was very sweet dog. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'll ask you some questions, and you just say whatever you like. How about that?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
first tell me a few words. How are you doing before that?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing really well. I really like graduate school, and one of my favorite classes is theater history.
Mm.
And it's so interesting, and it's been very good in helping me see modern theater better because I can see where it came from and how it evolved. It's been very, very interesting. We haven't actually done anything on Russian theater, but I would like to look into it.
Oh, yeah, you would have it very, very interesting. You will have a lot of fun. Is Derek your professor at your class in his theater?
Well, Derek is my secret weapon, actually, because when we're discussing something in class and then I get home and go over my notes and realize I have questions, then I can just call him and ask him. And not everyone has a spouse who has a PhD in
Yeah.
theater history. So I admit that that's been very helpful.
Ah, okay, but he's not your teacher, not your professor.
No, he isn't. He's back in North Carolina and I'm in Alabama for school
Yeah, this
right
is
now.
what I wanted to know because I see you write Alabama, Alabama. I couldn't understand. Did you move to Alabama?
Well, I did for school. I got a little apartment here, and I'll be here till I finish my degree. And we Skype every night, and I miss him, and it feels very far to be away. And when I went back home for fall break, the house was a mess.
Oh, I didn't know that you really rented an apartment and you live in Alabama.
I do, and I really miss him very much. And I'm further from Rachel,
Yeah.
but it's a very difficult degree to find. And there's actually only one school in the whole state of North Carolina that offers this degree, but they only take people every other year, and they weren't taking people last year.
No, because I thought that your university where Derek was uh, studying and doing his PhD and everything. I thought that they have this class. They don't.
No, they don't. No. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm enjoying it for now, even though I miss him.
Yeah, and what kind of degree will you get finally?
I am going to get a Master's of Fine Arts in Directing.
I thought you already have all that.
Well, I have a Master's of Arts,
Yeah.
but it's not what they call a terminal degree, meaning that I can adjunct as a professor and do a really great job for very little money, but I can't get a full-time job teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and make really big bucks. So that's maybe what I'll do when I'm done here. We'll see how it goes.
Ah, okay. No, good luck with finding a good job for good
Well,
money.
thank you. I appreciate it.
After you graduate, and good luck with getting your degree. Yeah.
Thank you very much. If I just stick to it, I'll be able to get it. So, Larissa, do you remember when we met?
Yes. In Moscow.
Yes,
In
and I
Moscow.
was there performing at the Moscow Musical Theater for Children.
Yes, you were.
Yes, and do you remember when you had me over to your apartment?
Kind of.
Yeah? Do you remember what that apartment was like? Can you describe it?
I need to think. I think this was the last apartment. Uh, was it the apartment on Kropotkinskaya, or was it still in? I don't even. Which year? Do you remember which year did you visit?
Yes, this would have been June 1989.
89. Oh, then it definitely was our last apartment.
Okay.
Okay, this was the nicest and the most beautiful apartment.
Mhm.
We had 3 rooms. In American standard, it would be considered as a living room and 2 bedrooms, but
Mhm.
in Russian standard, it was 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
We had very little kitchen, but it had a large window and it had a very nice large kind of how to call it, a table which was at the same time like a fridge. Under the window it was a how to call it, I don't even know the word, but it was a table with
Mhm.
drawers underneath and you would open, and it was this was the only place in the house where the wall was very thin,
Uh-huh.
and it was like a cold storage for winter,
Huh.
which was very good because I could do my sour cabbage and I could do my pickled tomatoes and pickles, and everything stayed all winter long there because it
Wow.
was like a second fridge, which was very
Wow.
convenient. And the rest kitchen was very little, and but we had very nice hall, entrance hall, and
Mhm.
my ex-husband did a lot of like wardrobes and bookcases in the hall.
Mhm.
Then on the left was a big living room, or no, it was our bedroom, my husband's
Mhm.
and my bedroom, with a balcony. And from that room was a door to another room, which was my mom's room.
Ah.
And from the hall was another door to another room, which was a boys' room.
Mhm.
And we had separate bathrooms. Bathroom was a separate one with a window and a separate toilet. We didn't have combined bathrooms like in the US.
Yeah. And I
And
know when you were living there, it was the Soviet Union. Was it hard when you needed to find a new apartment there, or was it pretty easy?
oh, it's completely different style. You cannot even imagine how it works in the Soviet Union. You don't find any apartments. You can get it by if government gives it to you, or you
Mhm.
can buy it. What happened to us? The first place where I lived, where I was born, was a little house which my father built himself.
Wow.
He came to Moscow in 1920,
Mhm.
and he married his cousin, and he built that little house in which lived he with his wife, who was his cousin, her father, which was his uncle, and
Mhm.
wife's sister. And
Mhm.
4 of them lived in that apartment. Then his wife passed away in 1946,
Oh.
and my mom's husband was killed in the war, and she
Mhm.
was evacuated to Ural Mountains.
Mhm.
And then after the war, with my brother from her first marriage,
Mhm.
she came back from Urals to Moscow and came to live with her aunt in Moscow.
Mhm.
And her aunt knew my father. And when she learned that his wife passed away, she decided to introduce them to each other.
Mhm.
And my mom was 33, my father was 44. Big,
Oh.
big age difference, yes. But my mother was young and beautiful, and he fell in love. and she really needed a place to live. And in Russia, in Moscow, you could not get a job unless you had a special thing which calls propiska, which means you had to have special registration. The place where you live, you need to be registered. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
live in Moscow without registration. It's
Mm-hmm.
still the same system and the same now.
Really?
If you're not registered, you cannot live in Moscow, and you will not get any benefits or nothing. And that's why she needed that registration, and they got married, and she moved in that house,
Mm-hmm.
which means it was already my father, my mom's son, and his uncle, no, his like father-in-law and sister-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot. And it was a problem because the uncle was coming to mom's kitchen because everything was all together, open door from one like suite to another. And
Uh-huh.
my mom would make soup, and he would come and take the pot and take it to him, which means
I guess
mom started complaining and demanding that my dad would seal those two units, two suites, to separate.
uh,
And this what they did. And then they had two separate entrances finally,
uh-huh.
which means for uncle and his daughter separately, with separate outside entrance, and we separately for four of us.
And then
And
they had to make their own soup.
yes, yes. And we had like a little room where we three of us lived, my parents and I. And
Uh-huh.
it was another tiny room which used to be like probably just a pantry or something, which my father made the room. And
Mm-hmm.
in that room, my brother lived. And my brother was always saying that he has the best, perfect conditions in his room. Without getting from his bed, he could get to bookcase to read the book. He could get to my mom's sewing machine to sew. We had a birch tree right at the house, and the mushrooms from that tree were growing under his couch where he slept, which means it
Wow.
was very fun. And then from a terrace, my dad did a kitchen and did like another little den or something.
Uh-huh.
And we lived there until I was 13 years old.
Uh-huh.
And then Russian government decided to uh, practically eliminate the whole area. The area was filled with little those private houses,
Ah.
and across that area was Russian exhibition. It was Soviet Union exhibition of agriculture and industry, of
Okay.
all like um, how to say it. Russian economy or Soviet Union economy of everything. A beautiful exhibition, huge, beautiful. It still exists and it got even better. I was visiting it this year, this summer. And that's why in that area, and the area was across and was filled up with little private houses.
Uh-huh.
And government decided that they wanted that area to rebuild. And it was Khrushchev times. After Khrushchev came to America and saw American apartments,
Uh-huh.
and he came back to Moscow, and they started building those five-story houses without
Ah.
without elevators, with those American-style apartments, which
Ah.
means like American one-bedroom apartment was considered good for four people family,
Wow.
and if it was two-bedroom apartment, then it was for six people.
Ah.
That's why when they built those houses, and we got an apartment in one of those buildings, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a southeast area of Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the area where our house was and all other houses, It was all those houses were completely demolished,
Oh,
and it was built a big hotel.
wow.
Hotel, what is the name of it? Cosmos, which means space.
Okay.
Hotel Cosmos. And it was funny because after it was built for several years, I was coming to that hotel, and right next to the wall of the hotel, I could see a birch tree, which was right at our house, at the, at the wall of our house.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that's how you knew where the house had been.
Yes, I perfect. I knew exactly where the house has been. Yes, but recently, last year when I came, this birch tree was not in existence anymore.
I see.
I guess it died, and now they have pines and spruces and completely different trees there.
Oh, okay. So what did you think of that new American style apartment when you moved into it?
Apartment would be perfect for a for small family.
Uh-huh.
But if four people live and they have a bathroom with a toilet all together, it can be a little difficult. And
Certainly.
and if it's practically one bedroom and four people have to live, which means if two people have the bedroom, the other two have a living room, and they have to go for each other.
Yeah.
That's why it's a beautiful apartment, and it was very nice because first time in our lives we had hot water and we had heat, and
Oh,
which means it was much better conditions than we used to have, because in our house we had outside water pump outside, and sewer we had to take outside, and our bathroom was outside in our neighbor's yard,
wow.
outhouse. Yeah,
That
that's,
must have been something in the wintertime.
oh yes, your butt would freeze. And we didn't have, for many years, we didn't know what toilet paper was.
Uh-huh.
My father and all other neighbors were cutting newspapers, and there are nails in those outhouses, and we would put those pieces of newspapers on the wall, and this was used instead of toilet paper.
Oh, I see. Well, that's pretty good recycling.
Yeah, for many years, yes. This is how we lived. That's why when we moved to that apartment, of course, it was much nicer and better place we lived. The only difficulty was a little bit, it was fine initially, but when I got married, it was just, and when Igor was born, it was a little like difficult because my father passed away. We were still four people, and it was a little hard.
Yes.
And
Oh,
then when Igor was like 4 years old,
uh-huh.
it was a new law in Russia, in Soviet Union, and they allowed wives of military men who were killed in the war to buy an apartment, which means you needed to get a permission to buy. You couldn't just buy an apartment.
Okay.
And we bought an apartment for my mom.
Ah,
And we decided, okay, now we can live separately. But my
mhm.
mom absolutely refused to move in that apartment.
Why?
She liked the place where we lived. She didn't want to move far away to another area, another district.
Oh,
Then we decided that, and because Igor was very sick when he was 2 years old, we were afraid to give him to daycare. And we decided that we'll move with my husband, and Igor will stay in our old apartment.
okay.
Which means we moved. We slept one night in our new apartment. We went to work. After work, as we agreed with mom, we came in the evening to help her, and she said she's not going to be alone with Igor.
Ah,
Which means we stayed in our new apartment one night,
I see.
and we started looking for an apartment for combining those two apartments into one.
Okay.
And this way we were able to get that nice three-room apartment in the center of Moscow.
Yes.
The best thing about our new apartment was the very high ceilings.
Hmm.
Ceilings were like 12 feet high,
Hmm.
comparing to all others, which were 8 feet. It was much nicer.
Yes. Now, people say that a lot of things were very difficult in the Soviet Union, but I was very impressed with how people supported the arts there. And I couldn't believe that the show that I was in when I met you was at this theater that did opera and ballet for little kids, and the little kids loved it because American kids never would have sat still for it. So, do you feel like that's representative of the Russian culture as a whole? Do people really
Yes,
love?
yes, absolutely, definitely. In Russia, you know, the first thing which really surprised me when I came to United States, when
Uh-huh.
someone, don't remember who, told me that they were going out. You know, in my Russian style and Russian tradition, to go out was to go to a theater, to go to a concert, to go to a museum. And
Hmm.
when I asked them where they were going out, they told me they're going to a restaurant.
Ah,
And I just couldn't understand it. It was something which I couldn't understand. To go in a restaurant, it wasn't to go out. It was just to go and have a meal, going to eat. It's not,
uh-huh.
which means in Russia, we would go out. It would be theater, museum, concert.
Uh-huh.
Once in a while, movie theater, we didn't even count like going out. It was
I
much
see.
below, much below.
Wow.
And
And
since,
do you
yes,
feel like it's still the same way?
oh yes, and since kids were like, since Igor was little boy, I was taking him always to the museums. I was taking him to concerts. I was taking him to children's theaters, which means I was always given this education, intellectual, cultural, whatever you name it. Yes, and actually, culture, I think, is very highly developed in Russia, in Moscow, at least Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kiev. I cannot say the whole country, it's hard for me to say. But
Sure.
in big cities, really, people are very involved with culture, museums, and theaters and
Yes.
concerts. Yes.
I remember when you all moved to New York that Igor, once he started to really master English, he said that school was much, much easier in the United States and it was much harder back in the Soviet Union. Was
Yes.
that just because Igor is so smart, or do you feel like that's true in general?
No, I think in general, in Russian school, uh, it's much more demanded. Uh,
Hmm.
Teachers just give much more than students. They teach much more. I think it's more advanced. Kids get a lot of homework compared to American school, which means we would go to school and we would have like at least 6 classes, and in the later in high school probably 8 classes a day. And
Uh-huh.
after that, we would come and we have at least 4 6 hours of homework to do. That's why when I came to the US and I saw how my kids study, I just didn't feel it was appropriate, didn't feel it was enough.
Yes. Hmm. What were other things that you felt were good about the way life was then, back in
And
Russia?
actually, what I wanted to mention also, because you know I have a lot of Russian friends, and
Yes.
and they had kids all ages, from little ones like my Alex to big ones which were going to high school already, and
Hmm.
all kids who came from Russia to the US, kids who didn't have any English initially or very little, they all very fast advanced in English and became best students in any school they attended. And
Yeah.
I thought it was a very, very good example that Russian school was good and Russian teaching was good, because
Yeah.
all kids were very, very high level. Not only Igor, like who from first quarter, from second, like first quarter, he became on high honor roll and president list, etc. But even
Yeah.
other kids, like Anatoly, my friend Anatoly, his daughter also was very one of the best students. Other friends, children, they all had very good grades and went to the best colleges of the country
I
and best
see.
universities. Yes, and a lot of them did PhDs, and it's such universities like MIT and Harvard and Yale. Yes, really, because I cannot say that they all were very smart. I think part of it may be smart and part of it was education style in Russia.
Yeah. And I forget what kind of work you did in Russia. Were you a translator?
In Russia, initially, I graduated from college, and in Russia, we studied 5 years, 6 days a week, 8, 10 hours a day was like about 8, 10 classes a day, which means
Uh-huh.
when I came to the US and sent my diploma to Harvard, they immediately wrote to me that it's equivalent to master's degree,
Uh-huh.
not bachelor's.
Yeah.
It was my degree was in materials engineering, which means it was like a chemical, electrochemical engineering, practically.
Okay.
But I worked as engineer very little, a very short time, because I was in a couple of years I was offered a job as a as I told you, as translator, as interpreter of patent classification materials.
Wow.
It was yes, and I moved to that job, and I was working for 12 years as scientific interpreter. I was publishing, I was translating patent classifications from English and French into Russian, and we were publishing those classifications in Russian language.
I see. I didn't realize you knew French too.
Yes, I didn't know French, but I could do technical translations. What
Ah.
happened with my French, when Igor went to school, close to our apartment was a
Mhm.
school with advanced French language education,
Mhm.
which means from a second grade he was studying French.
Hmm.
And first couple of years, they had a great teacher in the way he was very funny, but he didn't give them good education,
Oh.
which means they loved his classes. It was great. They loved him. It was second and third grade. And then he
Mhm.
moved to Paris. And to the fourth grade, they got another teacher. And we
Mhm.
found out they didn't know anything,
Oh no.
which means, and I was like in shock and I didn't know what to do. And I took his books for second and third year and started studying with him together, going
Ah.
through. We went through the second year together all year, and we went through the third year together, and then he uh, was more at the level of the fourth grade, and then he didn't have any problems anymore with his teacher and
Okay.
his school and with his studying. That's why, because of that, I had kind of initial some French language knowledge. I
Ah.
mean, grammar, a little education, pronunciation, reading, a little bit. But when he continued to fourth grade, I stopped. I didn't continue with him.
So you did a little homeschooling.
Yes, I did kind of homeschooling for 2 years, 2 years for 2 months,
Yes.
of French.
I
And
see.
uh, and when I started, yeah, because those qualifications we needed to do from English and from French. And I was able, I didn't have problems, I was able to do translations from French because it was just technical translations. I didn't have to speak and didn't have to do anything. Yeah. And this is what I did. I even brought some my books here as a
Mhm.
memory
Oh wow.
of
Did
my.
you like that job?
Yes, I did like it a lot. Yes, I cannot say that I was very happy with environment and people whom I worked with, but I liked the job a lot. Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm And if the situation in Soviet Union didn't become really so bad, and especially Jews persecution and all this, then I probably wouldn't even go because I didn't want to leave my country, didn't want to leave my job, didn't want to leave my apartment. But then I decided that it was more important for my children, and I wanted to give them better life than my life was because I
Yes.
was persecuted a lot. because
Really?
I think I told you that I graduated from university first in my class, like in Russia we would say with red diploma, and
Wow.
I couldn't get a job which I wanted, and the
Because you
job
were Jewish.
because I was Jewish, yes, and the job I wanted was given to one of the worst students we had, but her mother was a deputy of Soviet Union, Soviet Supreme Soviet of the
I
Soviet
see.
Union. Yeah, that's why I wanted for my kids. And when I was looking for a job, for work, I would get an interview and I would be promised a job and they would show me like my place where I would be working and show everything, describe everything. And 3 days later, they would call me from personnel department and say that it was no position for me.
Ah, I
And I
see.
knew that it was only because they went through my documents and they saw that I was Jewish.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and actually, I don't know if you know or remember that after I got married, my husband, after we graduated from university, he was sent to the army to Czech Republic for 2 years.
Wow.
And at that time, wives were not allowed to go to Czech Republic. It was after the coup,
Oh,
1968. But in 1971, they started allowing, no, it was 1970, 73, yeah. 5 years after the coup, they allowed wives to come. And I was able to join him, which means the second year I was with him in Czech Republic,
huh.
and I got pregnant there, came
Uh,
back pregnant with Igor, and I tried to get a job, and I couldn't get a job because as I said, whenever they learned in personnel that I was Jewish, I wouldn't get a job,
I see.
and this was very, very hard time for me. And remembering all that, I didn't want for Igor, for my kids to have such hard time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember when you all moved to the United States, you did all kinds of work,
Oh
right?
yes, yes. Because first, initially, I was not even for the first year. I was not even allowed to work in the United States. I could not get permission to work, employment authorization, which means I had to clean houses. I was babysitting. I was doing clothes alterations. I was
Mhm.
even upholstering furniture.
I didn't know you knew how to do that.
I did whatever I could. Whoever asked me whatever to do, I could do anything I was asked to do because I
I
needed
see.
money. I needed to support my family. You know that I came with my mom and 2 kids. And
Yes.
for people, family support was not easy.
Yes.
And then I applied for political asylum and I got employment authorization. I was allowed to work. Started looking for a job. And first I found a job with investment advisor with Bob Colley. You remember
Uh-huh.
Bob? Actually, I
Yeah.
talked to him today, and he
Oh,
invited me for Thanksgiving.
that's nice.
Yes, but it will be Wednesday, which is even better. Not Thursday, but Wednesday, because
Oh, wow.
On Thursday I might go somewhere else.
And you get two.
Yeah, my friend already invited me, but I told her if I don't get a better invitation, I'll go to her. Yeah, that's why I started working for Bob. It was only part time.
Mhm.
I think I got like about 25 hour, $5 an hour.
Okay.
But I really appreciate Bob, and I will always appreciate all what he did for me and all the training he gave me because he taught me the most important thing in life. He taught me when you work, you need to open a retirement account and to put money in as much as you can in that account.
Uh-huh.
And this what and whenever when he hired me, he told me that he cannot pay me more than $5 an hour, but he will open a retirement account for me, and he will put 10% of my salary in that account
Ah.
because at that time I couldn't put anything myself. I didn't
Oh.
make enough. And
Sure.
then I found my second job with
Mhm.
Bronfman Youth Fellowships 3 months later. It was also initially part-time job, but it was 750 an hour. It was a
Uh-huh.
better deal already. And also Ned opened a retirement account for me. Also was putting 10% into my retirement.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, which means it was even better. And then job with Bronfman became full-time job, 40 hours a week.
Hmm.
Now I already have 65 hours a week. And at night I was still going to clean offices, like
Wow.
John Harvey's office, etc. That's why I was working about 75, 80 hours a week
Wow.
to make the end meet. And
Yes.
yes, then as you remember, I got married, and my husband was
Yes.
sitting at home not working, which means I had 5 members of my family to support and feed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And Aunt Tanya helped when she could, but she was pretty old when you all came over, right?
We came, and a month later she turned 76.
Oh, I see.
And she lived in the US for 7 years.
Hmm.
And the last 2 years she was very sick most of the time.
I
And
see.
actually Joe helped me with her because I had to work, and
Yes.
helped me with her, and we both spent a lot of time in the hospitals with her. Yeah, and then June 1st, 77, she passed away.
Oh,
Yeah, and then later he started, I don't even remember when he started working. First he worked a little as a taxi driver, then he worked a little as driving MSA truck with security guards, and then he started driving lost luggage for Albany Airport.
oh,
And
yes.
this he was doing for about probably 11 or 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why then it was easier. Not that we still had everything. Our life was, we had everything separately. All our accounts were separate. Everything was separate. Initially, I paid for everything. Then he took over some finances, but I always paid mortgage and taxes and all home repairs, and everything for the house was mine expense. Food was my expense. Clothes was my expense. And then later he started like paying utilities and TV, which he only watched. And then he
Mhm.
started paying gas and car repairs and car insurance, which means we kind of started splitting our expenses, which became easier on me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll bet. And I remember mom telling me that when you first came over, she took you to the grocery store and that it was kind of overwhelming for you. I
Yes.
remember in the Soviet Union, the stores had so little in them, and I always took the American stores for granted. So, what was that like for you?
Yes, when we lived in Russia, especially the last quite a few years, we practically didn't have almost anything in the stores,
Uh
and we were
huh.
even getting kind of like the food stamps. Uh,
Hmm.
it wasn't free like here in America. You would get food stamps and you go and buy, but it was just stamps which allowed us to buy some food products. Which means we were getting stamps which allow us to buy 2 kilograms sugar per month for the
Oh,
family,
like
or
rations.
yeah, like butter, like buckwheat, like some other stuff, eggs, which means it was very limited, and you could
Yes.
not just go and buy because stores didn't have it. But for those stamps, you could go and you were allowed to get certain amount per month.
Wow.
That's why when your mom took me to Price Chopper first time, I walked in the store and I almost lost consciousness. And it was very, very hard in the beginning because, and it's still the hardest problem for me, shopping, any shopping, is to pick, to choose, because it's always so much choices, so many choices, so much to choose from, then it's always very hard for me to choose.
Yeah.
And with food, I got much better nowadays. and I don't need that much. And most of the things I buy are just fruit and veggies, and
Yeah.
very little of everything else. And I learned I don't need brands. I can buy store brand, etc. Initially, I didn't understand it,
Uh-huh.
which means my first grocery shopping, I think, was like $250. And I think
Uh-huh.
I bought some simple stuff just because I didn't know which prices, which food was, and what I was buying, what I was supposed to get.
Yeah.
Yes, and I remember like previous years, I could walk in the store and I wanted pants, and they had three different colors, and I couldn't choose, and I would get all three because I because I could not choose which color I really wanted. Or I wanted a jacket or a coat, and they had like black and gray, and I couldn't choose and couldn't pick. I could get both.
I see. I see. It's funny. In America, we grow up shopping, so we don't even think about how it takes some practice to
Oh
learn how to
yes,
choose and
yes,
figure out what you need and what you don't need.
yes.
Isn't
And
that
I was always jealous to people who could window shop, who could walk through stores and not buy anything. Because I don't go shopping because if I go, I buy.
I see.
And some people, like on Saturday, I think, or Sunday, a friend of mine came and she begged me to go with her to do a little shopping. And we didn't do anything like significant. We went to TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Walmart. But she just walks and dreams that she has it all and it's all in her house and she's happy.
And she doesn't buy?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't. She doesn't work. Her husband works for the whole family, and she is good. She does not buy. She just walks and looks, enjoys looking, and enjoys dreaming that she has it all. If I
Yeah.
go shopping, I buy
Uh-huh.
because for me it's no reason to go if I don't need anything.
Sure.
I go only for things I need, and I. Some people like you probably remember. I have a friend Emily. She can go for a week or two to pick something, to choose one thing, and then she will buy it, and then a week later she will bring it back.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, she drives me crazy with that, with her way of shopping. If I need something, I go and get it, and that's it, and I'm done.
Yeah.
I cannot keep going and keep looking and practically never return because if I got something, I wanted it, and I'm done.
Yeah.
That's
And
why.
how are the boys with that? Do they like shopping or do they not really, are they not interested?
You know, Igor was when he was at home, when he was like in high school and college, he was a pretty choosy shopper.
Uh-huh.
He wanted brands, etc., etc., which means since he turned 16, I think he was doing his own shopping. And I was pretty strict with my kids, and I think even your mom taught me that kids supposed to work, not only study but work too. And they were
Uh-huh.
always working as much as they could. They were working all vacations. They were working a couple of days a week during school years. And when they went to college, our rule was luckily both of them got full scholarship, but room and board we paid in half. Half I paid, half they paid. They had to get loans, they had to work, but I was covering only half of the room and board. And Igor, he wanted to buy something. He was really bad because he was getting in big debts
Uh-huh.
because he was a spender. He would buy expensive things, expensive clothes, and he was always very generous. He would go to a restaurant with friends and pay for everyone, and go to a theater with someone and buy tickets for everyone. And it's in some point when he was, I think, in law school, I accidentally found out that he had enormous amount of debts on his credit card,
Oh, no.
and we had a very big fight. And I paid off all his credit cards and
You
closed all
did?
the accounts. Yes, and he paid all those debts. I mean, I moved all those debts to my accounts, and he paid them.
Uh,
It's
I
not
see.
I paid them off that I moved them to my account. I paid them off from my account, but he was obligated to pay them, and he did.
And did he?
Yes, he did. Which means I don't know what he's doing now. I don't care. It's not my problem anymore.
Well, luckily, I'm sure he makes plenty of money now.
Yes, he makes plenty of money, but his wife is a spender.
Oh, I see.
That's why I don't know how they're dealing with all this. No,
Yeah.
I guess they're okay. I guess they're dealing fine. But I know that she's a spender. I had quite a few chances to see it.
Yes, I see. And she's not working now, right? She's staying home with the
No,
baby?
she's home with the baby, yes. Actually, since I know her, she was never working.
Oh, I see.
She was doing some, she would work for congressman, would do some pro bono. She would do that. She would do that. But I never seen her the regular job. She never did a job. She's a lawyer, but she never did any law work. She
Oh, I
liked to
see.
do policy. She liked
Mhm.
to do political stuff.
Right.
She tried to open a nonprofit organization company, and she did, but then this company went bankrupt because the accountant she hired bankrupt the company and took all the
Oh,
money, and and that's it. Which means I
mhm.
don't know what will be further. I don't ask.
Well, it's their problem now.
Yeah, I learned the hard way with Alex and Liz. Now I don't have any questions, and
Yes, that's
and,
probably wisest.
and try to keep my mouth shut and don't say anything. Even if
Yeah,
I don't like it, I still don't say anything.
I think that's very wise of you.
Yeah, but I learned the hard way. I wish I learned it earlier, knew it earlier. Someone taught me before, and maybe I would have better relationship with Alex's wife.
Oh, well, I hope that you'll be able to repair that because, especially because of the grandchildren, the
Yes,
pictures of the boys are just so cute.
yes, I'm very upset because I really want to see them and want to spend time with them, and I want for them
Yes,
to know me and remember me. And
yes.
Hunter might remember me, but Ryder probably doesn't at all. And
Yes. You
I'm
keep working at it, keep reaching out and maybe find ways to, visit and stay nearby and you could just visit the home for a few hours. That's easier on everybody than having a house guest and things like
Yeah,
that.
this what I did for many years. I did in the first few years. This how we did it. I would leave home like 8 o'clock in the morning. At noon, come to Alex, and then before she comes back to work, I was leaving and come home at midnight. But
Uh-huh.
now she doesn't allow me in the house at all. She doesn't allow
Oh,
me to come. She doesn't allow me to see the kids, which means situation dramatically changed to worse.
oh, I'm sorry. And remind me where they live.
They live in South Jersey, close to Philly,
Right,
across
right, right.
across Ben Franklin Bridge from downtown Philly. It's
Okay.
little town Wooders. It's like no one knows Wooders, but everyone knows Cherry Hill.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're right next to Cherry Hill. I don't know why everyone knows Cherry Hill. It doesn't know
I
Wooders.
don't I know it too, but I don't know why I know it. Cherry Hill, New Jersey, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, they're right next. They're like a few miles from Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Well, I've got a paper that I had better start writing. It's due very soon. Larissa, it's so wonderful to talk to you. I've really enjoyed our time.
Yes, darling, and I'm very, very happy talking to you. And I'm just a little like shocked and amazed because I didn't know about all those news in your life.
I
And
know it's really something, and I haven't gotten to visit New York in a long time, and I'm hoping
yes,
to come this summer.
I hope so too. And I kept seeing Alabama, Alabama, but I thought you would just like usually did something with Alabama theater. It never even came to my mind that you moved to Alabama. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
yeah. I
I'm
wish
here
you luck.
temporarily.
How long do you plan to be?
Well, officially it's a 3-year program, but I'm going to finish in less.
3 year. Oh my goodness, 3 years.
I'm here for 3 years. Yeah, I'm going to do it in less time than that.
Yes, it's a lot. 3 years, it's a lot. No,
Yeah,
I wish you luck. I wish you all the best. And
thank you.
yeah, and I hope to be able to see you. And
Yes, me too. And I'll let you know about this summer. I'm looking for a few days or a week to come and visit upstate New York and visit you and Josh and Beth and see
yeah,
what's happening
I don't know when I will be and where I will be. I have no idea.
I
Be-
understand.
because of my ribs, some of my plans were canceled
Oh,
because I
yes.
had big plans for February, March to go to South America, but
Oh,
everyone insists that I skip and don't go this year. I'm
okay. I
I'm still not sure, but if my ribs don't get together, maybe I shouldn't go.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know yet. And if I don't go anywhere in spring, I might still go maybe to Mexico, Caribbean, or somewhere because just I miss the ocean and the sea. But
Sure.
I really want in June, I'm thinking of going to Moscow, St. Petersburg, and
Ah.
and I want to take a tour to Scandinavian republics
Oh, how nice.
because I've never been there and I always wanted to see them and I want to see them before I die.
Yes. Oh, how lovely. Well, good luck with your ribs healing up, and I hope that the next time you have an x-ray, if you have to have one, they'll all be stuck together by then.
I hope so too. Yeah, I hope so too. Give my love to Derek and Rachel when you see
Thank you.
her, and good luck with everything. Good luck with
Thank
your
you,
studies.
Lisa. And
Okay,
thank you for helping me with my schoolwork by doing this.
you're very welcome. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, I love you, Larissa.
Love you, dear, and all the best. Love you. Bye bye. Good night. Bye. Bye. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay.
I'm checking. I'm checking out.
Okay.